Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of This Is My Bourbon Podcast. My name is Perry, and man, oh man, do we have a special episode for you this week. This is actually going to be the first of two parts where we revisit what we got to do at Bourbon Beyond. And this week, you're going to be able to enjoy all of the interviews that we did on Saturday. And unfortunately, as most of you might know, the festival had to be canceled on Sunday due to weather. And so a lot of the things that we had planned for Sunday, of course, had to be rescheduled or canceled or something of that nature. However, next week, you are going to hear a really cool semi-wrap-up episode that I got to do with Fred Minnick and Paul, his good buddy, and then Autumn from the Jephthah Creed Distillery. So be on the lookout for that next week. But this week, though, I'm not even going to... I don't even want to tell you everything that's about to happen because I want you to be as surprised by it as I kind of was going into it. I will say, though, the very last thing that you are going to hear was recorded on Sunday instead of Saturday, but it felt more natural to kind of lump it in with everything else that we did on Saturday. So enjoy that. I will be back at the end of the episode to wrap everything up and, again, plug our social media things. I also want to say, actually, before we get in, I just realized we actually were able to sit in during Bourbon and Beyond at a few workshops and seminars, and I got the audio from all of that as well as the audio from the press conference on Friday before everything kind of kicked off on Saturday. Now, if you want to hear that audio, and I promise you that you do, you are going to want to head over to our Patreon, patreon.com/mybourbonpodcast, because that's where all of that audio is going to be posted, and that's going to be kind of trickling out over the next couple of weeks. And that's going to include workshops like the Family Affair, which was a tribute that Fred put on to the Russell family. Dave Pickerel from Whistle Pig sat in, Kenny from Bourbon Pursuit, and then one of the guys from Bourboner, and then Peggy No Stevens. And it was a really good time. There was also a mixology seminar, too, that we were able to sit in on. And then a discussion on change in the industry in terms of diversity. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a great little bit. But again, if you want to go and check out that audio, again, that's going to be coming out over the next couple of weeks. And that's at patreon.com/mybourbonpodcast. But until then, we have a bunch of stuff to get to. So I hope you enjoy it. And let's get on. So we have Fawn from Uncle Nearest sitting down with us. Fawn, welcome.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. Yeah, of course. So you guys are a fairly new distillery.
To say the least. Yes, we are under construction as we speak. So our 270-acre farm is being built out. We will be the third largest distillery in Tennessee.
Here we go.
Look at this. We've got Uncle Nearest bottles. It looks like we've got a few. Is this the cocktail that has been made?
Okay.
All right.
Interesting.
So
Interesting.
it is a Tennessee iced coffee, and Jeremy Johnson over at Meta created this with Uncle Nearest.
Thank you, Ricky.
So,
Richie, sorry. I keep calling you Ricky.
Say what this is?
Yeah, absolutely. So we worked with a really close partner of ours here in Louisville. His name's Jeremy Johnson. He runs a bar called Meta. Well, he owns a bar called Meta. He's very, very, very talented mixologist around town. Yeah, he's done a few really infamous things in the industry to kind of get his name out there, and we're really proud to partner with him on this cocktail. So what we did is we wanted to come up with a cocktail that would be really popular for a daytime festival.
Nice.
And what better to keep you pepped up during a 12-hour festival than a little bit of coffee, right?
Sure.
Yeah, so we obviously started with Uncle Nearest 1856 whiskey. And then we used some local cold brew from a coffee shop called Quill's on Bardstown Road here in Louisville.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, have you ever been there before?
I think I have actually. I got married in Frankfurt, which is about 30 minutes from here, and we were here a little bit during that time. I'm pretty sure I've been there before.
Yeah,
it sounds familiar.
It's very popular.
Yeah.
Bardstown Road's a really, really kind of popular neighborhood, a little bit hipster.
Sure.
Love coffee shops. So yeah, so we use
Kind
some
of that intrinsic look. Yeah, no, definitely. They have some good stuff down there.
Yeah, so we use some quills, cold brew coffee, some Averna Italian liqueur, just a little drop of that because
Okay.
it's kind of a strong flavor. So we just used a little bit of that.
Sure.
Some palm sugar syrup, and we had to actually source the sugar discs from a local Asian market. So that's kind of special.
Yeah, no.
Yep, and then we used the Bolivar bitters, a dash of sea salt, and then garnished it with an orange wedge.
I got to be honest with you.
Wow.
This is about the best coffee drink I think I've ever had in my
It is
entire life.
delicious.
Oh, it really
It's
is.
delicious. Now, I saw Jeremy did some footage on it as he was making it, and did he call it the best damn coffee? What did
He did.
I did? Yeah.
I mean, I think I'd agree with you. Like, wow. I mean, it is the best
I just
damn
realized I
coffee.
haven't had any coffee today.
Yeah. Oh, I had
This is
coffee
my
this
first coffee
morning.
drink.
But
Well, there you have it.
We're here for you, buddy.
Oh, I appreciate you, Richard.
Are
I
you
appreciate you.
sticking with us, Richie?
Yeah, if you guys
Come
want
on,
to.
pop
You may
in.
as well.
Pop
You may
in.
as well.
Well,
Yeah.
I was listening to him and laughing because we are truly a Tennessee distillery, but here in Kentucky, Richie represents us here, and you got to love his accent from London.
Yeah, I was going to
Yeah.
say, you don't sound like you're from around here, Richard.
At all.
No, I'm not. But it's a little deceiving. I've been here a long time though.
Sure,
So,
sure.
but
how long have you been here?
I've been here for I've been here since 2005.
Oh,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
You've been here longer than I have.
Yeah, I've been here since. Oh, okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Curtis is from Ohio.
Yeah, I'm from
so-
Ohio, so I've only been here since 2013. So
Yeah. So talk a little bit about your all's roles in the distillery. Now, you're the master distiller, correct?
Oh, well, sure. If that means that I am the final taster, that I am the person who it goes through, and I am the one who drives our head of whiskey operations crazy
Sure.
and the actual distillers crazy, then yes. But I am the co-founder, co-CEO, and
Right.
I'm the chief historian for the company.
Okay.
And Richie is our ambassador here in Kentucky. So when you see Uncle Nearest out in the bars, in the hotels, in the restaurants, he's the one who put it there.
Awesome. Cool. And you guys just launched basically your national market too, right?
Yes. So
Yeah.
we launched the brand in July of 2017. It's got to be the fastest growing brand ever because we are now in 40 states and in 4 countries overseas. And we are going into 8 additional states before this year and 7 additional countries outside
Wow.
of the United States. So we'll be in 48 states and 11 countries by the end of the year.
that is so crazy.
incredible.
It's so fast growing. Wow.
I mean,
you
but
guys probably have no time.
No, not at all.
But to me, like, this is already an identifiable whiskey brand.
Yes.
You know, like, I mean, I can walk into the store and I pretty much see it in just about every store that I go into.
Amen to that.
So, I mean, but I think that's a clear testament to the amount of work that you guys have put in, you know, in the past few years. And I think that's incredible just, you know, in and of itself that I was like, oh, Uncle Nearest. I know exactly what that distillery is.
Yeah.
But how have you guys been able to deal with that growth? I mean, that's pretty quick for a small craft distillery.
Well,
right?
you know, it can be a little challenging. I think our warehouse in California has been out of stock for 3 weeks.
Oh, my gosh.
And our warehouse in New Jersey just ran out of stock. So it's like a constant bottle and ship, bottle and ship, bottle
Sure.
and ship.
Get it
Nothing
out
sits,
fast.
which I guess is a good thing. Nothing is ever sitting for any period of time. Before we bottle, we pretty much have all the cases sold. So that's a
awesome.
great thing.
Good for you guys.
But I think that this is probably the most fired up group of individuals on the ground for any whiskey company and for any distillery that is out there. And I love all the distilleries. I'm up here in Kentucky. I think Buffalo Trace runs this town. And in terms of all the awards, if I go into a bar and they do not have Uncle Nearest, my default is something from Buffalo Trace. So it's going to be Colonel E.H. Taylor, or it'll be Blanton's, or it's going to be something from those guys. So I'm excited whenever we're in Kentucky and we're side by side
Right.
with those guys,
Yeah.
right? Because
that's incredible.
to bring a Tennessee whiskey into Kentucky. And Kentucky has all these distilleries, and to get any kind of recognition is unbelievable. But our group of folks on the ground in every region here in the United States, they understand, and we all believe that we're representing more than a whiskey. We're representing a legacy.
Sure.
And so on Instagram, on social media, you'll always see hashtag more than whiskey when referring to us, because when we go out, it's about honoring Nearest Green. It's about honoring the first African-American master distiller, the story almost 200 years in the making. And then for us, the whiskey just has to match how incredible the story is.
Sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you're basing your brand on this tale behind the first African American master distiller.
Yes.
I don't mean to point out the obvious, but you're also a woman.
Absolutely. That's
what
why
kind
we've gotten it across the country and around the world so fast.
Good. Good.
If you want to see something get done, give it to a woman.
Well, my question was going to be, what kind of adversary have you faced then in this industry? Like, have you found that it's not been as accepting of you, or have you kind of pushed your way through it and said, I don't care? I don't care about your...
So I don't actually, I don't recognize adversaries, right?
Good.
So I don't
Sure.
know if they exist, because I have my own mission and I don't believe anyone standing in my way. And so if there have been people in the way, I probably ran over them along the way and did not actually realize it. So it's like this train is moving and I just hear boom, boom, boom. So my guess is those are the people who would have been the adversaries had I given them the opportunity to. I will say that when we first launched, so not only am I a woman, but our senior vice president of sales is a woman, and our head of whiskey operations, Sherry Moore, was the first woman to be in a high-profile operations job in whiskey in America, period.
Wow.
How amazing is that?
Holy crap.
Yeah.
So you've got someone who, when she retired in 2008 after 31 years at Jack Daniel Distillery.
Right.
And she was their head of whiskey operations when she retired. We pulled her out of retirement to lead Uncle Nearest. But you've got a very, you've got a lot of woman power here. But
No
what was
kidding.
funny when we first began is we would reach out to, packagers, right? We needed someone to bottle. We needed someone to, and we would, no one would call us back. And so I decided to test it one day, and I gave everyone who I'd reached out to, who Sherry had reached out to, and Kate who had reached out to, that wasn't returning the phone calls. I called my husband, who's an executive vice president over at Sony Pictures, and I'm like, babe, I know you're really busy, but I need to test this out. Can you call all of these people and tell them you're the CEO of Uncle Nearest?
Yeah.
Do you know he got calls back within 30 minutes?
Of course he did.
Of every single
Of course
one.
he did.
And I was like, oh, we're on to something.
Yeah.
So rather than being upset about it, for like the first year, everyone thought that my husband was heading up
In
this
charge of the
company.
company.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
and then you're like, surprise.
Surprise.
Yeah.
But
I'm
I
the
didn't-
one head of this.
and I mean, the irony of someone being based in Los Angeles, California, overseeing global public policy and external affairs for one of the largest movie studios in the world, and you would assume that he had time.
That would rank above. Yeah.
Yeah.
That he had time. But so I guess in that regard, then yes, we have faced some challenges, but it was very easy. We're big problem solvers. And
Sure.
so it was like, oh, you need to hear from a man to actually return the call? Problem solved.
Yeah.
I tell you what, though, I pick up the phone and I call any of these guys now. I get through.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
Good. So we have to talk, too, specifically about the whiskey. Start a little bit by talking about what your flavor profile is like. Like, what do you consider your palate to lean more towards? High rise, sweeter, weeder? What do you kind of identify with in your
Yes.
palate?
Well, if it's coming out of Tennessee, you know it's going to be high corn, right?
Exactly.
We actually only have, so we have two separate recipes. And one of our recipes, it's 10% barley and 6.5% rye. In
Wow.
this particular one that you have in front of you, it's 8 and 8 even. So everything else is either
Interesting.
corn or corn malt, depending on the recipe that we're talking about. But we're always somewhere around that 83.5% to 84% corn, or a combination of corn and corn malt.
So how have you felt like, because you don't normally hear of higher malt than rye recipes in
Right.
bourbon.
Yes.
How have people responded to that flavor profile then?
Well, we're in 40 countries, heading into 48. I'd
So it's
say
responded
it's pretty
well.
damn good,
Yeah.
right? Yes. So we just
Incredible.
won double gold in China. We
Okay.
have won gold in San Francisco, Los Angeles, in New York. We are, I think Cigar and Spirits Magazine gave us 95 points. They ranked us as one of the top 5 whiskeys in the world. And
That's
so I
incredible.
think that it's unique, it's different, it's incredibly special. Sherry Moore, who, as I mentioned, is our head of whiskey operations,
Right.
was adamant that our whiskey matched this incredible story that we have, and this story that had been uncovered after so long. And so we take our barrels, and after you dump your barrels, you're either going to do minimal filtration or you're going to do, no filtration at all. Well, for us, we actually go through 2 filtration steps. So after we pull our whiskey out of the barrels, it is never less than 8 years old. What is in this bottle that you have here is a blend between 9 and 11-year-old. I think a sweet spot for Tennessee whiskey is 9 and 10-year-olds. I actually think that's a sweet spot for bourbon as well.
Sure.
Is between 9 and 10.
Yeah.
Over 11, the tannins are too high. Under 8, it just tastes too young to me. And this is my own personal preference, right? So-
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
so what we have here is never any less than 8 years. So when we're pulling it out of the barrel, it is running through natural carbon from coconut shells. That's our first filtration.
Wow.
And so we're pulling out the congeners, we're pulling out everything you don't want in whiskey.
Right.
Most of it is coming out through that first filtration.
Yeah.
Then after that, we're sitting it in a large still tanker with diatomaceous earth. And we're pulling out the remaining congeners. So although I will say the family of Uncle Nearest reminds you to drink responsibly, you are not going to hear of anybody waking up with a hangover from Uncle Nearest, and it's because we've taken the time and spent the money to pull the congeners out.
Yeah.
Right. Gosh, that's incredible. I like the heavy pause there in between, though. We encourage you to drink responsibly.
Yes, but also.
Ironically, Nearest has a lot of family that's still in the Church of Christ, right? Who sort
Sure.
of started the teetotaler temperance movement, right?
Yeah.
And so they embrace this and they love it and they drink it. But then they want to make sure I always remind everyone to drink responsibly with
like-
their ancestor stuff.
I have to say this.
Exactly.
So, for sure.
Hashtag drink
Not
responsibly.
only am I legally required to do this,
Yes.
but morally.
Morally, and
Well,
if Nearest's family is listening, which they usually are, then they're like, fine.
Well, welcome to the
Where's our
podcast.
drink responsibly? Yes.
Check that box.
Check that
We've
box.
got it.
Yes.
Here it is.
Yes.
Yeah, no.
So where do you guys kind of see the Uncle Nearest brand expanding past these 8 more countries that you have? I mean, and not just about, a market standpoint, but product-wise, too.
Yes.
Because you guys do have a bourbon, correct?
We do not have a bourbon.
I thought you did.
Absolutely not. Everything that.
Never mind.
So the only difference between bourbon and Tennessee whiskey is what Nearest Green taught and what he helped perfect. So there is no bourbon that will ever come out of our distillery. It must
Okay.
run through sugar maple charcoal. And once that happens, it turns it into Tennessee whiskey no matter what. So we have a premium American whiskey that is going out around the world, and where this ends is 100 years from now, everyone is saying Johnny, Jack, Jim, and Nearest.
Oh,
That's so
And-
exciting.
and that's so
I think.
awesome. And
Yeah.
you can already tell, it's definitely going to be sort of like a home brand. This is a house name.
I mean, like I said,
it's-
too, I'm able to walk into the store and see Uncle Nearest
see it.
and
And it's
identify
gonna-
it as a top-tier whiskey.
Yeah, and it's
at this
going to
point.
rival. It's going to rival the bourbons, and that's something kind of really interesting and cool.
And kind of exciting, too. I mean, we always talk about how, Kentucky has the best whiskey. Kentucky
Yeah.
has the best. Well,
It's
not
like
necessarily. Well,
stripe.
American whiskey, we'll say.
Yeah.
But I think that is the most exciting
We're coming for you.
thing. No,
Yeah.
look, I think that
I think it's a little bit here.
I
Yeah.
think so
Yeah.
too, and I think that we're going to be welcoming it with open arms
Yeah.
too.
Yes.
Now Richie just poured us a little bit of this Uncle Nearest 1856 premium whiskey.
Absolutely, yeah. I had to give
So-
you guys a neat try before we left, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah. Thank you all so
and the
much for being
cocktail,
along.
man. Even then.
Oh, I can't stop
like,
drinking this
ooh.
coffee cocktail.
Well,
I mean, it's-
I think we've already got a line at our booth. Word is spreading
Well,
around
I'm
the
gonna
festival
go,
pretty quick.
Get 5 or 10. I mean, man.
well, I'm going to say cheers to Uncle Nearest.
Yes.
Cheers
Uncle
to-
Nearest.
Cheers to
Heritage.
the best whiskey maker the world never knew.
Yes,
And it-
until now.
And cheers to
Exactly.
the best whiskey that we're we're going to drink today.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Preach.
Absolutely.
Cheers.
Thank
Cheers,
you,
y'all.
guys.
So good. So good.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Oh, it's so balanced.
Yes.
Wow.
We
With
we
a little of
launched
that
in
malt
London
forward,
a-
and it's just
Yeah.
We launched in London a couple months ago. We're already in 225 restaurants and bars. And
my
if you
gosh.
can make it in London with an American whiskey, you can make it.
You're not kidding.
Yeah, yeah. So it is. They are recognizing this as being the most unique thing coming out of America right now.
Sure.
And we're excited about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you
Yes,
guys.
thank
Thanks
you
for
so
having
much.
us.
Absolutely. Really appreciate it.
Yes,
Yeah.
and we're so excited about seeing where the brand goes. And
You're not kidding, dude.
Oh, it's so yeah. Every time I see Uncle Nearest, I'm gonna be like, yep.
And I'll
So-
take one of those too.
Yes.
Well, cheers, y'all.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so
Cheers.
much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
So we're sitting down with Swimming with Bears, which is a band from Austin, Texas, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So Austin has this big, beautiful, exciting music scene.
It does. It's,
Right?
It's great.
Yeah.
It's
So what brings you guys to Louisville then? Like, do you feel like it has something to offer that is similar to the music scene in Austin, or?
This is our first time here. But it
Yeah.
feels like it.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Like we don't go to. We're like, okay, we love Texas. We love Texas so much that when we leave places, we leave Texas, go to
cry.
places, we're like, nah.
It's never gonna be better.
No, this
Yeah.
place is not cool. No. Baltimore, like shit list, man. Sorry, guys. But here it feels good. People here are nice, man.
Okay.
No, we run explicit on the podcast, so it's all good. Yeah.
Is it the bourbon?
It's a podcast.
It might be the bourbon. I don't know.
You can say they're not. The FCC's not on these guys' ass.
Yeah. Don't worry about us.
Louisville people are so nice. Like they're chipper. They're like excited
Yeah.
to see you. And that's like I think that's important, you know?
Yeah, they have good Southern hospitality.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you all have any of that down in Texas too?
Yeah, all the time. That's why we like
Good.
Texas.
We have
Yeah.
the most Southern hospitality, just minus the accent. Like people were like, "Oh, you guys are from Texas," and we're like, "Yeah, raised and born," and they won't even know.
Whenever we played at, I think it was Webster Hall when that was still around in New York,
Yeah.
we were saying yes sir or no sir to the sound guy,
Yeah.
and he really took it offensively. He was like, "Why are these guys being so sarcastic?" The whole sound check, we're like,
got
"Yes
mad.
sir," and he's like, "You don't have to do that."
You don't have to say
People
yes,
in
sir,
New
was
Jersey
my
get
father.
real weird about
Yeah,
that
you-
too. Like if you open the door for somebody at a gas station, they'll just look at you real weird. Like, what is wrong with you? Are you trying to hit on me?
Like, yes, come in here.
Yeah, come on in.
Even like a little bit further north, like into Indiana,
Yeah.
people are like that too.
yeah.
Well, they don't
Oh,
realize that
so
we used to
crazy.
get our asses beat with a belt if we didn't say that. So we're gonna say that.
Yeah, like of
Yes,
course I'm
of
gonna
course.
say yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. And with
Yeah.
a smile.
Just to be fucking nice
Hey,
about
yeah.
it. Like,
Funny story though. Funny story. My mom, she called me yesterday. Well, my dad called me yesterday, and he was telling me they went to one of my old friends, like old friends from our neighborhood. Went to their wedding and everything, and she was like, my mom was like, "Well, you know, I went to Millie, and her name's Millicent, but she was like, I went to Millie, and she called me Ethel." Not Miss Perry, and I was like, and my mom was like, no.
listen
like,
here.
Like, there's no
This is-
coolness. Like, you, just because you're 28, you can't be like to a 50-year-old lady, like, oh, hey.
And this is why we
What's
say
up?
yes, ma'am, no, ma'am.
Yeah,
What's up,
exactly.
Brenda?
No, sir.
Exactly.
Because even our friends can't call our mothers by their names.
So, what kind of influence did Austin have on you guys in terms of your music? Because Austin is not just like this rich cultural place, but like, I mean, so many musical icons, and specifically like blues music too. But you guys aren't really blues; you're
No, not at
more
all.
alternative.
I think there's two parts
But-
to that answer for you.
Yeah.
There's two things for that.
One
Let
of the
you say
things
your
was
thing.
we were living outside of San Antonio, and we happened to. Alex's mom actually happened to pass along an EP. She was at a VIP meet and greet for the band Blue October.
Okay.
And she
Yeah.
passed along an EP of ours, and the bassist, Matt Nevesky, ended
It's
up
like 2010, by the way.
Yeah, he randomly
taking
had
time.
the EP.
A long time ago. This didn't just
Oh, yeah.
happen.
Don't listen to that EP.
I didn't realize that Blue October were still popular. Oh wait, we're talking about two different things. Never mind. Go ahead.
But so yeah, they he had his phone number on it, and we get a call from Matt Nevesky, and all of a sudden he's like talking to Alec, like, I want to come meet you guys, and we should like talk about working on music. And Matt's just been like a super cool friend of all of ours
Yeah,
ever
amazing.
since, and just always been
Awesome.
a good mentor to have. So he's just been someone there that's always reinforcing us, like, y'all keep pushing it, just keep doing what you're doing. You know, he got us some of it, what him and other people helped us move to Austin, and we're like,
Yeah, we got like a backdoor entry and a bird's eye view of the music industry that was there, rather than what a lot of people do. Music in Austin's great. I'm gonna move to Austin and make my music career go off. Right, like every actor in LA, which doesn't really end up happening.
And same thing with Nashville too. Like it seems more like people who are from Nashville or from the Tennessee area,
Right.
like they do better in that industry instead of the people who move there. Because I mean, I have plenty of friends
Right.
who were really good in the Central Kentucky area, but they moved to Nashville and they just got swallowed up.
That's what happens. You can't just like you said. We moved there because of an opportunity.
Yeah.
We had to say yes. If you wanted, like, literally, it was like a
Sure.
big door for us to walk through.
Yeah.
Like a long hallway, lots of doors. Thank you. This is an inside joke they make fun of me for. But
Some,
really,
like,
it was a door we
American
had to
Horror
walk
An
through.
analogy
sounded
in
more
a
Twin
fight
Peaksy
in a
to
fight
me,
we were
but-
having one time. He's like, guys, just like a hallway with a lot of doors. I was like, what? Like, what are you talking about?
So yeah, this was one of those doors. This was one of those doors. We walked through it, and it was amazing. Big opportunity. What I was gonna say is, I don't think that the music industry, because we got the backdoor entry, gotta like get right in it and see it and be part of it like immediately. Like there was no lag time. We were already working Austin because we were living an hour away. We were already playing
Right.
here. But I think that when we came to Austin, we kind of left a little impression on Austin rather than Austin leaving an impression on us, because we had
Very
already
well
worked
said.
it.
Yeah.
We had already worked it. We had already been really like well known there. We'd already been like, you know, almost selling out our shows at like, you know, mini stubs and like Mohawk and stuff like that.
Yeah.
By the time we moved there, we brought this kind of like, I mean, look at us. We don't look like we're from fucking Austin.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Like Gary Clark Jr. is pretty much the epitome of every musician artist,
right,
the way
yeah.
he looks,
Yeah.
and we don't follow that at all.
Yeah,
Like,
you're
funny-
setting your own pace.
Yeah.
It's such
Yeah.
a refreshing kind of look.
Well, I mean, but I can't imagine you guys having like played at Antone's.
Oh, we're playing
We're
there
playing
on the 30th.
there.
Are you serious?
Yeah, we're
That's
playing it.
funny you should
but,
plug that.
you're in the right mindset. Like it doesn't feel the same.
But that's the
at
thing,
6.
because it's always been a blues bar.
Right.
Like,
But it's
I
a
mean, Stevie Ray
platform.
Vaughan cut his teeth there.
Yeah.
You know, but you guys are so far outside of that realm of music that it just doesn't seem like that would be the
You know,
the right
it's
fit.
funny. We get invited to a lot of different things. Like we played with the Wailers down in Corpus Christi.
Holy crap.
With only
Yeah.
reggae bands.
Yeah, we're
And
the only one there.
we can dip into reggae a bit in some of our songs, but and then we were at a Daydreamer app release party at Cheer Up Charlie's, like not a couple weeks later.
Yeah.
We played the Circuit of Americas. We were in the pit where all like the rally cars came in.
It was wild.
So I don't know. I think we have this sound that they're like, yeah, that'll fit over here.
So it kind of sounds like you guys have just taken this really quick catapult into the industry.
Feels like it.
Have you felt like that?
Yeah.
Like, was it just kind of like this overnight?
It never feels
Thing?
like it's overnight. And
Right,
I
'cause we've been doing this for 10
yeah,
years.
I
Sure,
think-
But it
yeah.
was once that decision got made, the moving to Austin.
That's
things-
what changed everything.
That's why I'm saying the imprint was left on them, because it wasn't like a grunting. Let's work our way through every
Yeah, it's
venue
sort of-
ever.
it's-
We didn't
it's
play
sort of
every
a-
week. You know,
It's all a grind.
Yeah,
it's
we-
sort of like you got there and you're like, hey, we're gonna make our impression.
Yeah.
And say, hey, you know, we do great stuff. Listen to us.
Sure.
And you left the impression. That's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, because this is a bourbon podcast and because we were in Kentucky, I have to ask you guys, do you like bourbon?
yes, I love bourbon. Yes, all four of us do.
So here's a question. Yeah. So what kind of
we're
bourbon?
we're gonna drink all the free alcohol here. They got to give us. Don't
You know
think
what
we're
it
not.
is we all went to college together, so we have this, like, hey man, watch it on that because we've seen how you get.
Like Fireball?
Yeah,
I think you're supposed to wait.
So when he asked that question, we're like, yeah, we have a deep background in bourbon as a band, and but
Joe's freaking out a little bit.
So
over
here's
here.
a question. What is your college alcohol when you guys met? And you were like,
We've been talking about that.
R&R. Rare.
R&R.
I'm surprised the R&R tint's not out here
Rich
with
and
their
rare.
whiskey.
you know
Rich
what it
and rare
was at
whiskey.
Texas State.
I don't think I've
San
ever
Marcos.
It's a-
It was,
it's like a $17
Johnny Walker,
handle.
Red, black, or blue, whatever was the cheapest one. Yeah.
so Johnny Walker Red is probably
The cheapest scotch.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The cheapest
yes.
mid-range scotch.
To the counter, I say, I need the cheapest one here.
Yeah.
Hey, take the blue one away now.
Here's the blue, here's the black, Here's the gold.
Yeah, but blue's
the
like
pink, I don't know.
blue's like $150.
Yeah, it's expensive.
for a bottle.
Yeah, blue's
Yeah.
like expensive.
We had a
yeah,
buddy
sure.
during like a White Elephant year for Christmas gave a Blue Label bottle filled with Jim Beam and the thing, and everybody fought over that bottle. No way. Yeah.
already
And he was in one of the times that we had the bottle. He was like, "By the way, that's just Jim Beam." Everyone was like, "Oh, what the hell, man?"
But the first taste was probably like, wow, I can really taste the caramel
Everybody
notes.
became a
And
connoisseur.
yeah. Like, instantly was like, the
I don't even
caramel
like
notes,
scotch,
man.
and this is the best scotch I've
Wow.
ever had.
The one thing I remember from college though was Kentucky Deluxe. Do you remember that?
That's not around anymore.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
even
that's
know
what
what that
Wasn't
is.
that a mix?
Little tiny.
No,
it's
it's a bourbon.
It's a bourbon.
Yeah.
Which one's the mix?
Kentucky Gentleman.
That's
We
gross.
also had
Yeah,
that too.
it's
That's
terrible.
gross.
We had Kentucky Tavern on the show recently.
Yes, we
too.
did. Our
And,
last episode, we talked about
The
that.
show's actually brought to you by them.
Kentucky Gentleman.
They suck.
guys,
Slams the bottle on the table.
Literally, the episode
Cut that,
last episode was called "We Drink Crap."
Oh
Oh, it
no.
was
my
bad.
God.
It was not a good experience.
Nobody share that link to them, please.
Yeah, I think with the band though and everything, everybody, the reason everybody kind of freaks out is because like they're like, oh, one, the lead singer isn't a little girl. It's a 20-year-old black guy, and then like it has like and we're so diverse in our look too. So it's a very
Sure.
it's a very I think it's a refreshing sight like to see that kind of
I have
diversity.
To, I have
Right,
to
and-
remind myself that sometimes.
But your
is a
voice is
20-year-old
so your voice is so refreshing though in I think the alternative genre
Oh, yeah.
because like I mean there are so many of those like Death Cab for Cutie
Oh, I love that
style.
character.
I mean I do
Ben
too. Don't
Gibbard.
get me wrong, but
Yeah.
it's like as soon as that voice caught on,
Yeah. Well, I
people
think,
were like, oh, that's the only thing that
And I
works.
think it's a lot of it is just like shifting, like and it was much as the band, like just meeting these guys too, that allowed me to shift like my voice over into like where it is now to
Yeah.
fit the sound that they have, because they brought just as much sound to the band when we play like like me and Ryan were talking about it earlier. We used to listen to just oldies all the time, but when
Right.
we met the two guitarists, they're listening to new stuff, and she's like Temper Trap,
Yeah.
Phoenix,
Yeah,
and just
totally.
so you're listening to these other bands, you're like, oh my gosh, and then you mix it in with that kind of like old school.
So what was? Go ahead.
That's so interesting that you mentioned Phoenix, because I literally I was listening to Phoenix, and then I listened to you guys, and I was like,
That's awesome, yeah.
whoa. I was like,
That's
dude, there's
awesome.
so much of an influence, but it also heightens it just a little bit more than Phoenix did,
Yeah, it's
and,
freaking awesome.
and that's what I
I
was
totally
was
agree
so
with that,
like,
actually.
kind of enthralled with was like, wow, that's awesome.
Actually, the first time we got together, before we were even swimming with bears, we were just jamming in a garage. The first song
That's
we
how every
played
great
was
band
1901
starts.
because that's literally like we both had delay pedals. We're like, wait, we could do some cool stuff with this, and played some Phoenix to the delay.
Yeah, that's so
And that was
cool.
like we.
yeah.
Yeah, it
So-
was
Oh,
crazy.
Did you start out as a guitar player, or did you?
Oh,
were you
I don't
always
play
bassist?
guitar. I only play bass. I went
Okay.
to the guitar store.
Dude, I gave him
with
my guitar. He can't.
I went to the
He
guitar
literally just
store.
was like, hey, fuck you.
Hey,
That's
hey.
exactly
I
what it
play
sounded like.
the bass.
Yeah. Well, I don't know why Token got so mad on South Park when they were like, "Hey, you got a bass in your basement." I would have been like, "I got 4 basses in my basement."
and 3 in the trunk.
Yeah,
So
no, my dad took me. I mean, we all have stories about our parents taking us to
Oh, yeah, of
music
course.
stores. None of us had lessons. You
Yeah.
asked me what. It's funny. I started out on the flute, and flute
I
played in
started on
trouble.
clarinet. So
I
Trouble
started
clap,
on the saxophone.
Okay.
So
You can't pull any girls with
that's where I
it.
started. I was like, hey, give me some Kenny G, man.
But we started, and I remember just like people just being like, they were just
First chair,
like,
by the
my
way.
dad was asking me like, you want to play the lead guitar like Jimmy? And I was
Yeah.
just like, no. I was like, I don't want to play the lead guitar. I was like, I want to play the deep guitar. That's what I called it.
Yeah.
I remember calling it a deep guitar. And he was like, the bass? Concerned about how many girls I was going to get.
Well, I want to say thank you guys so much for sitting down with us. You have a new single out, right? French Girls, which is killer. If you guys haven't heard it yet, go and check that out. Swimming with Bears, y'all are awesome.
Thank you.
And before
Appreciate you guys.
before we sign off, where do you guys go from here? What are you thinking?
Nashville. Yeah, we're
Nashville?
getting ready to record a bunch of new stuff for a new album, but right now we're doing like a little tour around this little show.
Good.
Going to Nashville
Good deal.
on Monday at the Basement.
Wow.
Nashville, then the Super Bowl. That's on our tour list.
Love it. Love it.
Stop there,
Yeah.
play that show, man. Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much
Yeah,
for
thank
sitting
you.
down with us.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thanks,
it.
guys.
Yeah. So we have the master distiller.
Before we start, I'm like,
you freaking out
wow.
about the cigar?
yeah, the cigar, man, that's awesome. Let alone the, wow. Okay,
So
anyway,
we have the master distiller from Rabbit Hole, and I'm going to let you introduce yourself too, because I just want to hear you talk first and foremost.
Well, my name is Kaveh. I'm the founder and whiskey maker at Rabbit Hole. And I say whiskey maker just to make a slight correction there. We actually say at Rabbit Hole we have no master. We're a
Wow.
collective. Because I think that term master distiller is reserved for a very, very select group of people. People like Jim Rutledge or Larry Ebersol or Dave Shurek. There's not a whole lot of those guys, or Jimmy Russell. The rest of us are basically just whiskey makers hoping to become masters one day. And it's a collective effort, right? We want to celebrate everybody who's involved in the process.
Okay.
So where do you fit into that process then? How do you view yourself in that game?
I see myself as a whiskey maker. I came up with the original recipes for Rabbit Hole. The idea was to make sure that we make recipes that are unique and take it
Right.
back to the glory days pre-prohibition.
Now, you guys do more than just bourbon, though.
Yes, we do.
You do a rye, and you also do a finished bourbon, too.
We do.
So
yeah.
let's first talk about, because we're on the bourbon path in terms of conversation, talk about what led you to wanting to do a finished bourbon, because sometimes people kind of look down upon finished bourbon. So what is it that made you want to take that next step into doing something different with your brand?
I think there's a few different aspects of the work that are just truly creative and artistic, and I think one of them is the blending and finishing part of it. So
Sure.
for me, aside from coming up with different recipes of bourbon and doing a stellar job of making that product, the other part of it is how can you cultivate your muscle of finishing and blending, and that's part of the reason we did that. So we got a few finished products on the
Right.
market right now, and I think that's a category that as long as people know what it is and how it's different than bourbon, I think we're on a solid ground there.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting to note. Is a lot of people, they go, oh, I'm just looking for bourbon, and the
Right.
fact to say like, hey, this is a finished bourbon. That's something so important to note. I think like the sherry cask, and I think that's so cool to put in.
Right, and it really kind of expands that opportunity too with the palate. I mean, it's not just that. I mean, so many different places have just one bourbon, and that's But you're taking the next step into making people really understand where it can come from.
Yeah, 100%. One of the things that worries me, and joking aside, it keeps me up at night, is if we water down bourbon. Bourbon has a certain criteria.
Right.
And I think we can probably take a page out of the Europeans and understand that we should be really bullish and dogged and obsessive about making sure we know what is bourbon and keep the integrity of bourbon, and be able to differentiate for the consumers and help them understand what's the difference between bourbon and finished bourbon, because they're two different categories.
Right. So what then in turn kind of led you to wanting to do a rye? Because those are two very different processes.
Yes.
In terms of production. And I would say too that you kind of have to do a complete 180 when you're going from bourbon to a rye. But what was it that made you want to explore rye as a product?
Well, rye is the original American whiskey,
It is.
right?
Yes.
I think we all know that rye was really one of the first whiskeys that captured the hearts and mind of Americans before bourbon. So for me, it was a natural that if we're going to make American spirits, rye has to be in the portfolio. And we partnered up with the best of the best, which is Larry Ebersol. That guy has got his fingerprints on probably about 90% of the rye whiskey that's out there.
Right.
He was one of my first mentors, and we made a 95.5 rye whiskey, which is like no other 95.5.
Yeah,
Sounds hot. I'm going to
It
be
is
honest
hot.
with you.
Sounds good.
Was Louisville always kind of where you wanted to base your operations? Because you are out of Louisville, correct?
Yes, we're out of Louisville.
Yeah.
We're in the heart of Nulu district in Nulu, in Louisville, just down the street from downtown. And I couldn't imagine having my distillery anywhere else, very candidly. Louisville in Kentucky, it's the epicenter of whiskey. And, what we have here, aside from provenance, is expertise.
Sure.
You have everybody around you that makes a huge difference, world of difference.
And the history and tradition of it.
Oh, my God, yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, exactly. It's
So, as we've kind of alluded to a little bit, you're smoking on a cigar, too, as we hang out here. Do you find yourself pairing cigar with bourbon pretty often?
We do. Cigars and whiskey, but also food and whiskey. Those are the two areas that we really want to showcase. Cigar and whiskey is pretty natural. Most people obviously know about it. What we feel that is an open opportunity is how do we showcase different types of food with whiskey, and even thinking about, instead of having wine pairing, multi-course wine pairing with, we can do whiskey pairing with 3, 4, 5-course meals, different types of whiskeys.
Mm-hmm. So, what is your ideal dish then to pair with Rabbit Hole bourbon?
That's a great question. depends on the meal, right? So
Sure.
I was just talking about, I had our rye with prosciutto and melon as an appetizer, just to kind of kickstart it, right? That prosciutto and melon with our rye was just phenomenal. And then I had steak frites, and I had the steak frites paired with our bourbon. It's a 4-grain, very, very hearty, robust bourbon. And then we finished it with our bourbon finished in sherry cask on the dessert side of it. So, man,
I need some of that.
Yeah, I know, right? The dessert and the
so
sherry
good.
cast, man.
Oh my goodness.
This sounds too good.
I'm going to be thinking about that all day long.
Yeah. Can we make that happen? Can we?
we can make it happen, baby. Come to the distillery, we'll make it happen.
Yeah, for sure.
We got an incredible catering kitchen there, and that's one of the things we're going to be doing at the distillery very regular. We've already had a handful of food and whiskey pairings, and more on the schedule.
Okay.
Awesome.
So when you talk about the distillery, how would you describe your distillery?
It's a work of art. It is absolutely a work of art,
like
brother.
it, man.
First
it
of all,
really does.
For us, transparency is not just a marketing slogan. So the building is an embodiment of that. Glass and steel. Frank Gehry, protege, helped me design, co-design this.
Wow.
Everything is immersive. You're going to come to the distillery, you're going to get greeted with a glass of bourbon. When you walk
Before you even walk through.
Man.
Jeez. That's the way to do it.
You start with bourbon and you finish in our tasting room, perched up, overseeing downtown Louisville, New Lou, with all our products. That includes all the finished products that are not cheap. And then you get lifted off the manufacturing floor through a spiral staircase, fully immersive. There's no distillery like it. I can promise you that.
Love to hear that, right?
Yeah, no kidding. Like, I think we need to go there.
So, I mean, I've already been, but...
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
I've not been there yet.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Okay, well, that's next on my list then.
Man, Perry,
that's
what
right
have
at
you
the
been
top of my
doing?
list.
I just don't understand. So, there's that. I don't know.
Well, I want to say thank you so much for sitting
my God,
down with
thank
us.
you
We
guys.
really appreciate it. Rabbit Hole Distilling, great product, of course. You
Great
can find
finishes.
It, you can find it pretty much anywhere bourbon is sold. So, Kaveh, thank you so much for sitting
Thank you,
down.
guys. Thanks for
I
having me here.
appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
So a very special treat, I'm going to say, an unexpected one for sure. Mr. Freddie Johnson from the Buffalo Trace Distillery is sitting
Oh my
down
gosh,
with-
Perry, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Freddie. It's good to see you, buddy. So, of course, welcome to Bourbon and Beyond. I mean, you are kind of a star here
No,
right now.
no,
Oh, you
no,
are
no,
too.
no, no,
Don't be so modest.
I'm an acorn on an oak tree. What are you talking about?
So humble.
So Freddie is not just well known for, of course, his tenure at Buffalo Trace and his family's heritage working at Buffalo Trace, but also because you're a Hollywood movie star now too.
You're
He's
kidding.
making a face at me.
I know.
No, so you were a central part of Neat, the story of bourbon, which is a fabulous movie that just came out
Yeah,
this past year. What was your experience like?
kind of cool.
Yeah.
Kind of cool.
Just sort of cool.
Yeah. So, but I mean, if you look at all the other players that were involved in the making of that, the reason that I got caught up in it was it wasn't just about the bourbon, it wasn't just about the product. To bring in some of the folks that produce the grain and the corn, to show how all those different pieces are a part of it. Very few people realize that it takes 8 to 10 bushels of grain to make a barrel of bourbon. So if you look at all the bourbon distilleries in Kentucky, just Kentucky alone, and you look at the hundreds of thousands of pounds of grain that the farmers are producing, you begin to realize it's greater than just a bottle of bourbon.
Yeah,
it's all these other folks that are involved in bringing that product to the shelf in the store.
Yeah, and it's even greater than, the master distiller, It has the farmer. It's the person that sells it. It's the person that crafts it.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
and the person that consumes it.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
But you start putting all those pieces together, and you can get hooked on it easily, because then you realize, wow, these are what I would consider everyday folks, but it's planting the seed for the next generation. And I try to, for me, I get caught up in it because I'm a third direct generation.
You are. Yes.
But what is hard for most people to understand, everybody's going after these really good bourbons now. And they fail to realize that when they run out, they're upset. Why didn't you make more? And it's hard to understand that the bourbon that they're enjoying today are really some of the last barrels that Elmer and my father put in the warehouse at Buffalo Trace. And the bourbon that we're making today is actually for the next generation. So your bourbon for the next 25 years has already been made. And that's what blows everyone's mind.
Yeah.
So if you drink too much too fast, you're sucking up your own juice.
Freddie, don't
slow down. Curtis, slow down before you drink it. So, yeah.
So that's
he specifically directed that at me, too. Did you notice that?
He said, Perry, you drink too much.
Well, Freddie, you rolled out the 7 millionth barrel.
Yeah, I did it with my grandson.
You did. It's just the coolest thing in the world. You were just inducted into the Kentucky Bourbon Hall of Fame, too.
Yeah, pretty neat.
It's pretty neat. Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've ever sat down with a Hall of Famer before in any
maybe
sense.
You haven't, just didn't realize it. Say maybe they didn't announce what they'd achieved.
What they said.
Well, it's all about the public. I mean, that's not something that you intentionally go about doing. I didn't. And so that's really what's amazing about it, is the number of people that, have said thanks for what you've done. And it's a pretty cool vote of confidence. And you try to live up to that, but it's just humbling, man. It blows you away.
I'm sure, man.
Yeah,
I'm sure. Now it may be a weird question, but does it change the way that you approach your job at Buffalo Trace?
Does it right now?
Does it change the way you approach your job at Buffalo Trace, or are you still Freddie Johnson still, or are you taking,
They're asking, did it change the way that I approach my job at Buffalo Trace? You ready for this?
I'm ready for this.
If Freddie screws up a tour, Freddie's in trouble.
Okay.
So, no.
Freddie's still Freddie regardless of his accolades.
Freddie still does tours. Freddie still has fun.
Yes.
What's the most fun part of your job?
Getting people excited about Buffalo Trace and about bourbon. As you probably know, with all the interviews you're doing, there are a lot of folks that are not even familiar with bourbon. They're in the habit of drinking wine or craft beers or cocktails. And they're making this transition to bourbon. And what's cool about it is introducing it in such a way that it's not overwhelming. We tell people to start off taking baby steps. We let them know it's okay to mix it with a little Coke, mix it with ginger ale, mix it with something that brings out the flavors, but you still enjoy the product.
Sure. And I mean, you've said the best way to drink bourbon is just how you like
How
it.
you like
It's the way you like it.
Yeah.
And I also tell people, they ask about, well, who do you think makes the best bourbon? And I tell them it's not important, because the best bourbon is the one that you enjoy, whether that's based on price or
Yep.
taste or a combination of both. But the deal is, if you find something and you like it, the responsibility of the distillery that you get it from is they have to know what they've done, because they have to replicate that taste from that
Right.
moment forward. And that's the cool part about this is it's not about making a good bourbon. It's knowing what you've done so you
And
can
do it again.
You can do it again and do it again.
And that goes back
And
to preserving the history for the next 25 years.
And that's something we like to kind of portray, is the sense of, hey, it's an adventure, it's a process. You know, it doesn't matter if you started on Fireball, like, you know.
Oh yeah,
whiskey.
that's that's a kicker.
Oh, it's definitely a kicker.
Yeah.
Like, it's the process of, the progression of you getting and learning your palate, learning how you like your bourbon and your
Right.
whiskey. And I think that's something that we like to really portray is that progression and that story.
Yeah.
Let me tell you an easy one. We make a product called Bourbon Cream.
Right.
Yes.
And it's fantastic.
Yes.
It's great in coffee.
And I'm doing this event, this tour, and the family came in, and Granny was on the tour. Granny didn't really want to be at Buffalo Trace Distillery. She wasn't into hooch, all right? But because the family had come in, she came in with them. Granny had on this little pearl sweater, very nice and refined.
Yes.
So she didn't want the straight stuff. But she said, so I'm not a wet blanket, I'll try a little bit of this cream. It doesn't seem to be quite as strong.
Yeah.
So normally you get 2 samples and you get cream on the side as dessert.
Right.
So Granny takes her little sip of the cream and she says, oh my. She
Wow.
says, this is okay.
Yeah.
Well, the kids are all looking at Granny, and Granny takes that cup and slams it. She shoots it. And she
But
sprays
she
it.
was in her pearls.
Well, let me tell you what happened. She slams it, she puts the cup back down, and she said, now you did say we get 2, right? Well, we look around, and Granny's got little beads of perspiration coming out on the top of her forehead. She starts unbuttoning her sweater, and I said, ma'am, I said, are you okay? She said, oh, I'm fine. And she takes off the little pearl sweater and wraps it around her waist.
Yep.
And the kids are like, Mom, what's going on? And I said, well, you see, kids, it's not just tequila that makes your clothes fall off. So the whole group.
That's beautiful.
But
Yeah.
it shows you how bourbon, no matter how it's consumed, can still be something that the family can enjoy together.
Yes.
Without anybody getting smashed, but without it being bad news. So that's what's exciting about bourbon right now is everybody's kind of like finding ways to enjoy it.
Yes.
Right.
And
Right.
it holds the memories. Bourbon has a way of like, hey, you drink this, you're going to remember the good times, the bad times. It's just going to be a culmination of everything.
Right.
And that's,
Yeah.
Right.
I consider bourbon a conduit.
yeah.
It's a conduit for memories. It's a conduit for moments that you can share with someone that when that moment occurs, it's for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So you can never do away with moments.
So if you had to kind of wrap up real quick, if you had to categorize bourbon with one word or one phrase, how would you do that?
When I think of bourbon, I just think close family and friends.
Right.
It always boils down to that. You never bring out good bourbon with people you don't like.
It's so true.
It's always close family and friends.
Well, Freddie, thank you so much for sitting down with us.
Thank
man.
you.
We appreciate it. Well, I'm super excited to have you guys sitting down with us. But it's Michael Cleveland and the Flame People. Guys, welcome to the podcast. This is incredible. Now we're going to kind of jump around from topic to topic, but the first thing has to be talk a little bit about your music style, because it may be bluegrass, but I feel like it's a little bit elevated. So where have you guys kind of taken your your genre of bluegrass to the next level?
Well, I mean, the main thing that I think a lot of people don't realize is that bluegrass musicians are influenced by other styles of music. So even the older first generation bluegrass musicians, they were listening to what was on the radio. So they were influenced by big band, horn players, and so we do today. We listen to other styles of music, and we try to incorporate that into bluegrass, as well as paying homage to the people who set the standard for the music that we like to play.
So do you consider yourself a bluegrass musician, though, or do you find yourself dipping into other genres as well?
I consider myself a bluegrass musician, but I love to play other styles of music and collaborate with artists in other genres. And that's why it's so good to play festivals like this. This is a festival where, we get to play in front of people who aren't familiar with bluegrass. And that's our goal for this band, is to try and play and take bluegrass to people who've never heard it before.
So you're transcendent then, and
that's what yeah, I guess.
So here's a question.
Yeah.
What's your favorite genre to kind of collaborate?
Well, I've done a lot of jazz music in the past. We got to do a Pops concert back in March with the Louisville Orchestra, where they took some of our music and put orchestral arrangements to
wow.
it. And it was phenomenal. It was such an awesome night. And I like all kinds of music.
Yeah, and speaking on that, Pops, I actually work at Keeneland, and I got to experience that, and that was so amazing.
Oh, were you there?
Oh, yeah, no, I was.
Oh, cool.
Oh, great.
And so to experience that kind of genre and just classical kind of beautiful music, it was so amazing. So commends to you guys on that.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
Teddy
absolutely.
is just incredible, too, what he puts together there at the Louisville Orchestra. And him and Michael had gotten together over some jazz shows locally here in Louisville. Right. And Teddy mentioned something to Michael, I think, about doing something with the orchestra. And of course, yeah, we would love that. So it was just an incredible opportunity for us. We had a blast playing with all those folks. It was really fun.
Yeah, I couldn't stop smiling the whole time. I kept wanting to watch the show myself.
Yeah.
I kept turning around and looking at the orchestra,
Yeah. Oh, trust me, I was sitting there going like, oh yes. Yeah.
So how do you guys function as a band then? I mean, is it pretty collaborative in terms of the songwriting and forming of music, or are things pretty Michael based then? And I'll let anybody take that question.
Oh, as a band,
too.
how do we?
Yeah, how do you function together?
We're getting ready to go in the studio next week, and so yesterday we were sitting around working on some of the songs, and we all kind of try to look for material. You're constantly looking for material.
Sure.
And Michael brings a lot to it, and everybody does, but we just all sit down and try to start playing it. You kind of have an idea of what you want to do, but it's just, if you just jam a little bit and see how it comes out, then you can start, going from there. And Michael will probably know more about it than how he approaches those types of things.
Well, the thing that is important, when you're listening or you're looking for songs, even though it might not be a song that is a bluegrass song, and sometimes people send you a song and all it is them singing and playing a guitar or whatever, and you have to, in order to be a band leader or, you have to envision what you would want the song to be, what it would sound like in your style of music. So that's what we try to do.
Do you have a vision for your music?
Yeah, I mean, and it keeps kind of evolving, you know, like for a long time, you know, all I wanted to do was play bluegrass. And I love bluegrass, don't get me wrong, and I'll always play it. But, as you get older and you get interested in other styles of music, you know, I wanna collaborate with people outside bluegrass and we want to play festivals like this, you know.
Right. So, what specifically? Because you guys aren't from Kentucky, correct? You're
Not
from
quite. We're close.
Pretty close.
Just across the river. We're Kentuckiana, you might call us.
I myself am from Louisville, but everybody else is a
Okay.
Hoosier. So.
Sure.
Except
Well,
for the banjo player. He's from Missouri, but we'll let him slide on that.
Missouri, huh?
Curtis is from Ohio.
Yeah, I'm
So,
from Ohio.
yeah.
So I get it. Perry doesn't really accept me as a Kentuckian, but I
Yeah.
get it.
I'm growing. I'm growing too.
I try to.
Yeah. So how connected do you feel then to Kentucky? Do you consider Kentucky kind of your second home, or is it just a place that you guys come and play music?
Well, you know, we really, for a band that's based out of this area, we've gotten to play here in town more than we ever have. I usually joke that we have to drive about 12 hours in order to play a gig, but it's the truth, pretty much.
Really? Even in Kentucky?
Yeah. I went to school down in Western Kentucky in Bowling Green, so I lived down there for a few years.
Oh, okay.
I was sort of a Kentuckian briefly.
Yeah.
Sure.
We went to Eastern Kentucky.
Oh, that's
so-
our rival. Yeah, no good. That's no good at all.
I'm just gonna have to ask you guys to leave.
I'm just gonna have to leave now, aren't I?
So what is the future for the Michael Cleveland outfit? We'll go ahead and call it, and your music. Where do you see things going in the future?
You know, it's a hard thing to think about, you know.
Or what are you hoping for, I guess?
Well, I hope that we get to collaborate with other artists in different genres, and I do know next year that this summer has been the busiest we've ever had
Sure.
in the history of, like, I've had this band for 12 years, and this has been the busiest summer by far, and we've gotten to do so much cool and different stuff than what we ordinarily do, and we definitely want to keep doing more of that. We're going to the studio in a couple days and start to work on a record with the band and also some collaborations, and then we just want to play in front of as many different audiences as possible.
I mean, I think that's a very reasonable expectation.
Also, how
But
beautiful is that too?
Yeah.
In the sense of, like, me and Perry, we are both designers.
we're both graphic designers.
Yeah, we're both graphic designers, and we love to, like, collaborate with anybody and everybody.
Yeah.
And there's a little connection there in the music industry as well. It's like, hey, we just want to make good stuff.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
How great is that?
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's something to put a test about. And it's like,
Teamwork makes the dream work,
Yeah.
man. I mean,
yeah. So,
well, but before we let you all loose, one more question for you guys. What is it? Because we've talked so much about collaboration. What is it about collaboration that really does excite you? Because I feel like at times you get worried about stepping on other people's toes, right?
Sure.
And you have this opportunity to bounce off of other people's ideas, especially with music. But why is collaboration so enticing to you guys, so attractive?
Well, I tell you, collaboration for me, the coolest thing about it is, it gets you as far as us for bluegrass artists. If we're playing with somebody that's in another complete different genre, then we get in front of their audience. and they'll come up and say, well, I don't like bluegrass, but I like what you all do. And I'm like, I hate to tell you this, you like bluegrass. So that's about the coolest thing. It's, most people are thinking, no, it's just old hick music. You hear things on the movies or whatever, and that's what they think about dueling banjos or whatever. And you got somebody like Mike over here who's, he's a fiddle genius,
Sure.
And
absolutely.
And there's just loads and loads of young musicians that are in the bluegrass genre, and it's really cool just to be able to introduce our music to people that really don't have a clue about it.
For sure.
And I think that's why I ask more about how everyone kind of feels about the collaboration, how things work, because sometimes you see the front runner, and they're like, oh, well, we understand how they kind of think, but what about the band members behind?
Yeah, because a band is a collaboration.
Yeah,
sure.
Exactly.
At the heart of it, too.
So, just to continue.
Yeah. So if collaborations for me, you're meeting up with different people who've come from different backgrounds, and I like to write songs, and I get stuck in a rut where I kind of start writing the same thing, kind of keep doing the same thing.
I'm the same way, actually.
And probably the same way with graphic arts. You do what's comfortable to
and
you.
music,
so
too.
Perry's also an artist as well.
Oh,
yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
So when you collaborate with people, you start thinking a little differently. You start, thinking like
sure.
them, or they have another idea, and you might not be, you might not like it, but you'll try it, and then it works. And you're like, hey, that's pretty
Right.
cool. And you never ever would have tried that before. So
And isn't it interesting, when you're uncomfortable a lot of the time, that's when you do the best work?
Sure. Yeah.
It's so interesting.
Yeah, and when you're collaborating with people, it means they're usually collaborating with someone that's really good, maybe better than you are.
Yeah.
So anytime you work with someone who's doing material or whatever better than what you can do, it helps to bring you up.
Exactly.
That's the way this band is with Michael. Michael kind of has shown all of us all kinds of things, and he's brought us along quite a bit through the years, and so just getting to collaborate with Michael's been, it's really helped out all of our musicianship, I guess.
Sure.
Well, being a bass player, I'd have to say collaboration is great.
I mean, I'll come out and see your solo bass show anytime you want me to. I mean, if that's what we're getting at here.
But no, as far as I'd have to agree with Josh. It's all about expanding your mind, because it's easy to get into the same rut if you play the same licks over and over or the same grooves.
Right.
You can collaborate with somebody new, and they may have a different type of rhythm, different type of groove that you've ever heard before, and it's like, that's kind of cool, and you just expand what you know, your knowledge.
Sure. Michael?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else I could add to that. No, I mean, I think that's it. When you write with somebody who has a different take on it or has been around and different styles of music, it makes you think differently, and it'll take you to a different place musically.
Sure. Banjo player?
I feel like it's a good way to learn and, of course, be around new licks and things, and get in front of a new audience as well. And basically the same thing they said.
Well, I just want to say real quick, thank you all so much for sitting down with us.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Go check them out on iTunes, I'm assuming? Yeah. Anywhere you get your favorite music.
Social media stuff.
Sure. Appreciate you guys so much.
thanks
It's been a
a
lot
lot.
of fun. Yeah. So I'm sitting down with Kevin DiDio from Lux Row.
Lux Row Distillers, yes.
Welcome to the show, man. This is kind of in a in a setting that we didn't think we were going to have to be in this weekend. Of course.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for the invite.
Absolutely. So, talk a little bit about your experience with Lux Row. How far back do you go?
Yeah,
with the company?
I've been in the industry about 10 years, but I've been with Lux Row coming up on 1 year. So I started in October, and my role is the experiential manager. So I'm responsible for our consumer experience through the distillery.
That's very cool. So what is your what's your mission statement as far as like your experience that you want to impart on
Absolutely.
people who come to the
the one
distillery?
thing is it's the home of our bourbon portfolio. So we want to make sure everyone feel like they're walking into our home.
Yeah.
Our creative director, Michelle Lux, the wife of Don Lux, our chairman and CEO, she really put her personal touch into our visitor experience, so that it really feels like you're walking into the Lux, one of the Lux family homes. That's the kind of impression we want to leave on all our guests when they come through our site.
And you have a pretty deep portfolio too in terms of product.
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys tend to strive for in terms of quality of product?
We like to think we have a pour or a taste for every palate. We run two mash bills. So we have a wheated mash bill, which is 68% corn, 20% wheat, 12% malted barley. And we use that in Rebel Yell and our David Nicholson 1843 product. So those are usually our sweeter bourbons.
I did not know that David Nicholson was a wheated bourbon.
The 1843 expression is.
So, but not the reserve.
The reserve uses our rye mash bill.
Wow.
Yes.
Incredible.
And then our rye mash bill is 78% corn, 10% rye, 12% malted barley. We use that in Ezra Brooks and David Nicholson Reserve.
Right. Now, you guys just recently announced too the Old Ezra.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about that product, because I personally am super excited for it.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I mean, I was saying to you earlier too, I thought, it's only going to be, because it sounds so exclusive.
Yeah. Well, it's actually it's going to be a global launch for Ezra 7 or Old Ezra 7. So historically it was a 101 proof, but the new launch is going to be a brand new package featuring Lux Row Distillers on the packaging, celebrating our new distillery. Also, it's a 7-year product, and the new release is going to be at barrel strength, so 117 proof.
That's
exciting. Got a big, bold, spicy flavor to it.
And look, I mean, at $40 a bottle, right? Yep. That's a great price point for that proof too. I mean, there aren't a whole lot of cast strength bourbons.
Correct. Yeah.
At that price, and the fact that it's going global too, just blows my mind.
Yeah, we're really excited about the launch. We think it's a great product. It's great on its own, pairs well with cocktails, and it's got a really great, strong, robust flavor to it.
Yeah, awesome. So what's your favorite product from the Lux Row line?
Right now, if you had to ask what was playing in my iPod, it would be our David Nicholson Reserve expression.
Yeah.
I like high proof. One reason I'm excited about the Old Ezra 7 as well.
Yeah.
But the David Nicholson Reserve comes out. It's aged on an average about 7 years, so it's got a really strong vanilla and caramel flavor in it from the barrel. And it's at 100 proof. So it's got that higher proof, so it's got a lot of body to it. So it's
I
really
like
great
too
tasting
that
bourbon.
it's not overly hot. It's not overly powerful or anything. It's a great everyday sipper, I think.
Yeah, I think
too.
so.
And it seems like it's really starting to catch on too.
Yeah, absolutely. From our visitor experience, that's one of the top choices of our consumers when they come through our distillery. They take the distillery experience. They do our tasting at the end of the tour, and then they walk out looking for the David Nicholson Reserve. It's a product we're very proud of.
Yeah, yeah. What's your gift shop like?
So our shop really celebrates our bourbon portfolio. So all our bourbons are available there. Also we've got some different unique items that we put throughout. So each brand has kind of its own kind of unique set of gear, and we also have just some unique things that kind of help celebrate Kentucky, and then also celebrate Bardstown as well.
Right. Yeah. And you guys are located in Bardstown?
Located in Bardstown.
I don't know why I thought you were located in Louisville.
Yeah, we're in Bardstown on Highway 245.
Yeah.
So it's our address is 3050 East John Rowland Boulevard.
Write it down.
In Bardstown, Kentucky. So, yeah.
Now, we were originally going to be meeting at Bourbon and Beyond, but unfortunately today, and there goes Fred again.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, they had to cancel today because of weather. Mm-hmm. But what was it about Bourbon and Beyond that really that made you guys want to come and showcase your product?
I think it's just, it's kind of a unique thing. It's a unique event that really celebrates all things bourbon and being centered in Kentucky. And now that we have a distillery in Kentucky, we felt like it was a great fit. There's a lot of the culinary aspect, a lot of the folks behind the bar really kind of celebrating all uses of bourbon. And it's just a really cool event with some great talent and some great folks. So we wanted to be a part of it.
Yeah. And I mean, there's nothing else like it in Kentucky or even the world.
Exactly,
in terms of, not only are you able to showcase Kentucky in our biggest product, too, but there's all these wonderful musical artists that are there too. So what's kind of in the future then for Lux Row? Like, you guys of course have Old Ezra, but what's a little bit further down the line for you all?
Right now we've just opened our distillery, so we're continuing to build out. Just built our distillery, which opened in April. So we're looking to just try to invite as many people as we can to come down, explore our brands, explore our distillery, meet our people, and just kind of enjoy our products with us. Right now we do have the launch of Old Ezra coming up. We've just we had our Blood Oath Pack 4 product, which launched this past April, which has been really successful for us. It's a great tasting product, finished in a toasted oak barrel, and got a ton of flavor. So,
Very cool. Now, where were you guys located before you had your distillery in Kentucky?
Our parent company is Luxco, is based out of St. Louis.
Okay, right. Gotcha.
So prior to this, we'd sourced whiskey prior to this point.
Gotcha.
So it was our time to build our own distillery. So
yeah, and I mean you're doing everything in-house now too. That's
Correct,
very cool and commendable of you guys.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah.
Well, of course, man. I mean, it's nice to see the craft being, localized and centralized to your distillery. Well, man, I appreciate you sitting down with me.
No,
for
absolutely.
this little
Perry,
bit.
it's been fun, man. I know it's been a wild ride for you guys.
Dude, you're telling me.
So, yeah.
You're telling me. Well, Kevin, I appreciate you, man. Nice meeting you.
Perry, thanks so much.
Yeah, sure. Awesome. I want to say the absolute biggest of thanks to everybody who is involved with Bourbon and Beyond, all the way up to Danny Wimmer Presents, to Fred Mennick, to the city of Louisville, to our friends over at Estes PR, Tracy and Jamie. We could not have done any of this without you guys. We really appreciate it. We are super excited for next year. We are already planning stuff and looking forward to it. So if you want to follow up with us on social media, you can head to @MyBourbonPod on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And then if you would like to check out our apparel, you can head to bourbonshop.threadless.com. And then become a patron of the show for as little as $1 a month at patreon.com/MyBourbonPodcast. And there's going to be a whole lot, again, of exclusive content that's going to be released over there, specifically from Bourbon and Beyond. And then we're going to start rolling out some new exclusive content, too, once we hit probably a little bit more of our Patreon goal. But that's about it for me. I'm at PRitter1492 on social media as well, if you'd like to follow me too. Next week, again, be on the lookout for that special wrap-up episode with Fred and Autumn and Paul, because that's a lot of fun and a very goofy little conversation. But I hope you check that out. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Give us a rate and review on iTunes. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts from. We will see you next week. But until then, I'm Perry, and this is My Bourbon Podcast.